There is a reaction most people do not expect. It does not happen immediately. At first it is subtle. Then suddenly it becomes intense. It is what happens when people realize they no longer have access to you. Not access to your body. Not access to your time. Access to your inner world. And when that access disappears, some people do not simply feel confused. They panic. If you have ever pulled back emotionally, stopped explaining yourself, or quietly set boundaries, you have probably seen this reaction before. People who were once calm suddenly become intense. People who never questioned you begin interrogating you. People who were comfortable with you start acting anxious or offended. You might hear things like, "You have changed. What is wrong with you? Why are you being distant?" It feels dramatic. It feels unfair. But psychology says this reaction is not random. Here is the truth most people never talk about. Many relationships are not built on connection. They are built on access. Access to your thoughts. Access to your emotions. Access to your reassurance. Access to your availability. As long as that access exists, everything feels stable. The moment it disappears, the relationship begins to shake. Social psychology shows that humans do not only attach to people. They attach to patterns. If you were always the one who explained, always the one who responded quickly, always the one who softened tension, always the one who made things feel okay, people did not just value you. They relied on the role you played. And when that role disappears, the loss feels personal. This is why people panic when they lose access to you. It does not register as a boundary. It registers as loss. And loss activates fear. That panic does not always look like fear. Sometimes it looks like anger. Sometimes it looks like guilt. Sometimes it looks like sudden concern. But underneath all of it is the same thought. I do not know how to interact with you anymore. When people lose access, they often push harder. They ask more questions. They demand explanations. They create urgency. They frame your boundary as cruelty or rejection. Not because you harmed them, but because they no longer know how to regulate themselves without your emotional availability. Psychology refers to this as dependency disruption. When someone unconsciously depends on your reactions to feel stable, your withdrawal destabilizes them. And destabilization feels threatening. You may notice something uncomfortable. The people who panic the most are often the ones who benefited the most from your access. They did not just enjoy your presence. They depended on your patience. They depended on your explanations. They depended on your emotional labor. Your silence removes their safety net. This is why the reaction feels so intense. They are not reacting to you pulling away. They are reacting to the sudden responsibility of managing themselves. At this point, many people feel tempted to fix the situation. You might want to reassure them. You might want to soften your boundary. You might want to explain again just to calm things down. But psychology is very clear here. If you restore access to calm someone else's panic, you teach them that panic works. And they will use it again. Quiet people struggle here the most. You do not want to hurt anyone. You do not want conflict. You do not want to seem cold. So you overcompensate. You explain your withdrawal. You apologize for needing space. You justify your silence. And without realizing it, you reopen the door. Here is the difficult truth. People who respect you will adapt. They might feel surprised. They might ask once. They might need a moment. But they will not demand access. They recalibrate. People who panic reveal something important. They were not relating to you as a person. They were relating to what you provided. And when the provision stops, the relationship collapses. Social psychology shows that entitlement often hides behind familiarity. The longer someone has access to you, the more they assume that access is permanent. Not because they are malicious, but because humans normalize patterns. Boundaries interrupt that normalization. This is why losing access feels personal to them. They interpret your boundary as rejection even when it is not. They confuse access with closeness. They confuse availability with loyalty. They confuse explanation with respect. When those disappear, they feel abandoned. Here is the reframe you need to hold on to. You did not take something away. You stopped giving something that was never owed. Panic is not proof that you did something wrong. It is proof that the relationship was unbalanced. Balanced relationships survive boundaries. Unbalanced ones collapse under them. You may notice another shift. Once you stop providing constant access, people begin projecting. They assume motives. They create stories. They fill silence with fear. That is not your responsibility. Psychology is very clear on this. You are not responsible for regulating emotions that others outsource to you. If someone cannot feel secure without access to your inner world, that insecurity belongs to them. This does not mean you will lose everyone. It means you will lose false closeness. The kind of closeness that depends on over-availability, emotional labor, self-erasure. What remains is quieter. But it is real. You might feel lonely for a while. That is normal. You removed a role you once played. Roles take time to dissolve. But what replaces them is alignment. Here is the most important insight. When people panic after losing access to you, they are not reacting to distance. They are reacting to autonomy. Autonomy removes leverage. And leverage is what many people unconsciously relied on. You do not need to explain this to anyone. You do not need to defend your boundary. You do not need to manage their reaction. Your responsibility ends at clarity, not comfort. Here is the reframe to remember. If people panic when they lose access to you, it does not mean you became selfish. It means you stopped being a resource that others relied on without realizing it. Final thought. The people who deserve connection with you will find a way to relate without entitlement. The ones who panic were not losing you. They were losing control.